in this episode, I'm going to be speaking to someone that I definitely can't beat in a race. All right. Hello, and welcome to Michael Sahno Has a Podcast. I'm Michael Sahno of Michael Sahno Has a Podcast. And today I have an awesome guest, part 2 of a series, so to speak. I have Maria Fernandez from Gator, University of Florida track team, SEC Division 1. What's up, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you?
I am wonderful. After all the trials and tribulations of trying to get this on the air so we can record it, we're finally here. How you doing?
I'm all right. Yourself?
I'm wonderful. I'm doing really well. And so you just got back from your from visiting your family. And in the roster, it says you're from Doral, so you're from South Florida, Miami,
Yeah,
right?
correct. I was originally born in Mexico City, but I grew up in Miami.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my first language is Spanish.
So actually, I have something to say about that. And then, so Deportes in 60 Segundo con Maria Fernandez. I did some research, and that's what I came up with on YouTube. You did this 60-minute news spot.
Yeah. So the University of Florida has different news
and
programs.
My Spanish is horrible,
but
so
I understood everything. You got it.
See.
So I used to have like a 60-second news segment, and they'd rotate us. Sometimes you'd do entertainment, sometimes you do like the actual news, you'd be an anchor or you edit, and then my favorite one to have every week was the 60-second sports segment.
So that's so funny because I watched that and I was like, holy crap, this girl sounds like Telemundo. So this is like really like, because you're Spanish, your diction, everything is so different. So all right, so my family, my mother and my father are Mexican, so I'm half Mexican.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, 50% from Mexico City, and the other half is Tejano. So we're like weird Mexican, where some people say, "Oh, you're not really Mexican." No, I swear to God,
You're Tex-Mex.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was in the Army, I was in the New York Army National Guard, and it was all Puerto Ricans and Dominican guys, like almost all of them. And they were blanco. And I was like, no, I'm Mexican. No. Too tall. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then we went down to Fort Hood in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and all of my people are like 6 foot tall. And they were like, okay, all right, you can get away with it. And I'm like, thank you. Gracias, amigo.
It's definitely a thing. It happened to me when I got to college too. I'm 5. Technically, I'm 5'5" and a half. I just say I'm 5'6", but that's pretty tall in the Hispanic world.
You do the same thing my wife does. Actually, I'm 5. So go on.
But like, I grew up thinking that I was super tall. Like my teachers in Miami, my parents, my family, it was always like, Maria's so tall. So I grew up believing that I was genuinely so tall. And in school, like, guys are probably like, you're a tall dude in Miami if you're like 5'10", and most of my girlfriends were like between like 5'2" and 5'3". Sometimes they don't even make it to 5 feet. So when I get to college, and I find out a lot of things. I find out that I have an accent that I didn't know I had, and I find out that I'm actually short. Like, everybody called me tiny, but in the sports world in general, like, Americans are just like averagely like 5'8", so I'm already short. And then coming during the university where everyone's a D1 athlete, girls will be like 6'4", and I realized I'm so short.
Oh my gosh. Well, don't let it get you down, because I want to talk about some of that. I again, in my research, I came across that video, but I came across another video from Gator Track, and I think it was May. What was this? I have it here. No, March 2021, at the 1,500 meter FSU relays. Mm-hmm. Holy cow, man. What did you eat that day? Because you took off. You ran that race and you won that race. And that whole last stretch, you're like just putting distance, 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 distance. Oh my gosh, she's taking off. One, why is that the only race you have on? I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm sure your other races are good too. But that race was phenomenal. What was going on that day?
I didn't even know that race was on video. So I joined Gator Track and Field in 2018. I redshirted my freshman year, and then we started racing, and then COVID hit halfway through my sophomore year, and that would have been my third year here. Yeah, in 21. I don't know why it's the only race that's on there, but
well, they haven't done anything in a while. There isn't anything for the past couple of years.
Their media team tends to lack sometimes, but honestly, I didn't eat anything different that day, and the time wasn't particularly fast. I think after COVID and some family troubles, I was in a really, really, really bad mental spot, and that race was like something to prove to myself. I was so nervous. I think that's probably like one of the most nervous races I've had in like my entire life, and it wasn't anything big. It wasn't a championship. It was an opener. It was a small meet. Like there wasn't anybody else. Like it wasn't huge schools. But it was the first time that I felt like I was getting myself back into like racing mentality, because that past fall 2020 of that same year was just not good. But I don't think anyone in my team had like the good mentality.
No,
so it was like a season that was
a
barely
tough time
counting
for everyone.
And it was a season that wasn't like official. Like we got to race it and we raced championships, but they still gave us the eligibility back. So it was like I felt like no one was taking it as serious as it was.
Well, you were taking it very seriously that day. It was awesome to watch. So it's funny because Imogen has another race that's similar to that, where she just winds up putting this big spread, and then I see you do that. And what's funny is I saw both of those videos after I saw, the Abby Steiner WOW videos from Kentucky, and I was like, holy cow, Abby Steiner, she's amazing. And then I saw you race, and I was like, wait a minute, that's pretty awesome too. Holy cow, so pat yourself on the back. You did a good job. And so where did it all start though? So in the stats on the roster, it says you're from Doral, and it says you ran at Doral Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with it. What's the program like? And did you just get into the program, or were you running for years before that?
I come from a very big sports family. My dad played professional soccer. And my mom was an athlete her whole life, and my grandparents were pro tennis players. So sport is just like something that was always like instilled. If anything, it was almost like more important than school. And no matter what, like my whole life, you had to be in a sport. It didn't matter what it was, didn't matter what you were doing, but you had to be active. So I played like any sport you could think of except soccer. Funny enough, my dad never thought of putting me in soccer, but. So I played field hockey all of middle school, and before that I played tennis. And then my dad I think it started in like the 5th grade. Like we just went to a random like community 5K, like of breast cancer awareness, or like City of Doral one. And I realized like I kind of liked it. Like I would win like my age group, and it definitely wasn't something I was training for. And then I really, really remember in my 5th grade PE class just like finding it so exciting to beat the boys. Like I was the fastest 5th grader, but beating the boys was just like what got to me. Like I loved the competition. And when I got to Doral in 7th grade. It's a middle and high school. I realized that they had a track and field team and a cross country team, and I didn't even know the difference between the two sports. But finally, my freshman year, actually, who is now 8 years later, my current boyfriend, I had a class with him, and he was on the team. He was older than me. And I think we talked about it one day and was just like, oh, you should come out, join. And I joined the team, and it was just like from there, like it was immediately my passion. I loved running every.
Yeah, you should just join this Division I SEC team. Just try out. It'll be fine.
No, that was in high school.
That's so.
That was in high school.
Oh, all right.
That was in high school, and then got to like my junior senior year, and like I knew like running in college was a thing, but I'm a first gen student, like so I didn't even know how applying to schools worked. I didn't know what the NCAA was. I didn't know about conferences. I had no idea how big sports are actually like collegiately in the U.S. until I was basically signing my letter of intent with the
Mm-hmm.
NCAA, and then I started going on visits, and even my dad came on with me to visits, and he told me, he was like, "Dude, what you're getting is like bigger than a lot of professional teams get in other countries. Like this is insane. You have to do it." So I ended up committing really late. Actually, I committed April of my senior year to UF.
Wow, that was going to be my question. You're from Florida. You're a Florida native,
Mm-hmm.
and you became a Gator. Was that your first choice, or did you have aspirations for other schools? Um,
Yeah.
for
So
me, I love Florida. So the fact that my son's a Gator this year, go
did you go to
Gators.
Florida?
I'm at Florida right now. I'm in the graduate program for applied physiology and kinesiology,
Oh,
and
awesome.
I'm going to be moving on to my doctorate in the Health and Human Performance College. So stick around. You'll be seeing more of me.
Awesome.
So
We'll see what comes of that. My options. I really only looked. I talked to some out of state schools, but I really just wanted to stay in Florida. I'm from Mexico City and I'm from Miami, so I felt like I
mhm.
was definitely like a big city girl, and I was so scared to end up in a little town. And I feel like I'm super Hispanic. Like I'm very much of my culture and of my people, and it sounds weird, but like Miami is like not the United States. Like I had maybe met two Americans,
Trust me, I know exactly what you're
met
talking
two
about.
Americans before I started going on college visits, and so I started going on visits, and I just felt so out of place. I was like petrified of leaving, and in Mexico you don't really leave your house until you're married, so it was like super strange that I was leaving my house at 18, and I felt like a kid. My mom encouraged me, and she told me that worst case scenario, you don't like something, you come back, but you're never gonna know if you don't go for it. So I saw FSU, and I loved FSU, and then the only thing was
We'll
they had
let
a
that slide. We'll let that
yeah,
slide.
yeah,
Go on.
but they had a huge team. Like imagine a cross country team where only
No,
five
yeah.
girls score. They had 40 girls on their roster,
Whoa.
so it was like like how much attention are you possibly gonna get? Like how much effort are gonna go into you and not to the girls that are already like at the top, you know? So, and I really liked at the time their coach was Kelly Phillips, and I had a female coach in high school, and I
Hmm.
think throughout my life, honestly, it just ended up being that for every sport I played, I ended up having a female coach. So field hockey, it was a female coach. Tennis, it was a like everything was female coaches.
So I grew up in a heavily matriarchal family.
Mhm.
Strong grandmother, strong mother, aunts, all of that. So I know exactly where you're coming from. And the thing that most people don't get is when you have that matriarchal aspect to it, you're not getting away with anything at all. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
Produce, perform. Yes, ma'am. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
And it honestly, it was a hard thing about adjusting to Coach Zelinsky here because
Hmm.
one, I really feel like guys are like scared to push women as much as they do. Like I saw his treatment with the men's team be very different to the women's team, and just like different topics. Like he was always kind of awkward whenever like any girl topic came up. Um, but I also think he was. I don't know. I just when I had a female coach, like she would not let me stop. She's like, if you haven't passed out yet, like there's no reason to stop. So it was definitely very different to adapt to.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so great. I have my list of questions here. So
Go for it.
if I look down, um, all right, we covered the first two questions. Now, one of the things that I wanted to cover is so you've got that race that you went in. You said you had a lot of stuff on your mind. So my jam with applied physiology and kinesiology is sports/performance psychology. That's where a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
research takes place. So we can classify the feelings, the emotions you were experiencing before that race as fears and anxiety. Would you
Mm-hmm.
say that's correct?
Yeah.
All right. So, how do you compartmentalize that? How do you put that in a box in the back of your head before the? How did you do that before that race? And was it any different from the way you do it in any other races? That's a big
Um,
question. Sorry about that.
there's that's like definitely one of the things I analyzed about my career throughout the years. Like in high school, it was, I would almost call it like panic. Like there was multiple times before the line, especially in cross country, because cross country hurts so much more than track. Where I would like almost be in tears at the line of like, oh my god, I like just the fear of how much pain you're about to go through. Like it's not like a performance anxiety. It's just you know how much hurt is coming your way,
The
and
burning lungs, the burning legs, yeah, all
it's just
that.
like all over. And distance running is different than sprinting, because when you sprint, like you can physically point at something that hurts, so you can be like, all right, my hamstrings are really tight, like my quads aren't picking up. But in distance running, it's just like there's nothing to point at. It's just everything hurts. You're just so fatigued. It's miserable. I definitely say that distance runners are like masochists. But um when I
If
get to
you go on Brooks Running
uh-huh.
and their Instagram, there's this woman who does some really funny posts about that. You got to go check it out.
On
I'll
their
send them
Instagram,
over to you.
I'll go
So
see
yeah,
those.
oh, it's worth it.
I'll go see those.
But
But yeah,
so
at some
go
point,
on.
you eventually have to compartmentalize that fear and turn it into like your friend. It's almost like, all right, like if I'm not hurting at that point yet, that means I have more to push for. And that sounds kind of crazy when you say it to non-runners, but
No, it's so I was in the military. I told you that. So
yeah.
I was in the Navy for 6 years, and then I was in the Army for 4 years. And running was just a part of everything we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with this stupid thing. It's so dumb, but it's called the idiot giggle. And it's just where you're like, oh my gosh, this hurts so much. All right, got to keep going. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know if it was
Oh,
precisely a giggle, but that definitely goes through everybody's head. Like, oh my god, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. Um, but yeah, and then eventually, like, you have to turn all those like fears and anxieties like previous to a race into the second that gun goes off. It's just like adrenaline shoots, and you feel it burn from like head to toe, and you kind of go numb. Like, I I can promise you that I feel like if you talk to anyone who's ran crazy times, like most people's PRs, um, people don't remember the races. Like you're in so much pain and so much adrenaline that it just like you kind of black out. Like I don't have a memory of a lot of races. Like I can remember when I finished and when I started, but a lot of in betweens, like my coaches will tell me like, why'd you do this or why'd you do that, and I'm like, what? I'm like,
when did I do that?
yeah,
Well, actually, what you just said accounts for something specific. So I was rewatching the race before we did this because I had to get the date and everything, and I said I'll just watch the race again. And I thought about it, and this is the bastard in me. I'm like, why don't you just elbow them when they try to come around you? And I was like, that's so horrible. You can't do that. But then I was like, I wonder if people do that.
yeah,
And
people
then
do
based
that.
on what you just said, do they even remember doing it?
Yeah, they might not, but it's definitely a thing. Like I've had to like it's happened in races. If an official were to see it, they would definitely call you out and you probably get DQ'd. But especially in cross country, if you've ever seen the start of a cross country race, it's
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of girls running against each other. You have to. If not, you're gonna get trampled. There's no way to move forward if you don't.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. But so putting all that away, you just sort of rely on basically the biochemical aspect of your physiology taking over and removing the psychological aspects of it. It's almost like a light switch that gun is.
Yeah, but I've always thought, and I came to learn this, that I think most races and are determined like the 10 or 15 minutes before a race. Like, yes, physiologically that's gonna happen. Like
Whoa.
if you're in the right mentality, when the gun goes off, you will feel the adrenaline shoot. But there's definitely been races where I just couldn't get myself to be focused enough before a race to be like in the zone enough that when the gun went off, like I still felt very much like aware instead of just like zoned in,
Yeah,
you know?
no,
And
no, I
those
totally
races
get it.
kind of suck because you're way more aware of how much you're hurting, and it's way harder to push through it. Um, but yeah, definitely like it's 90% mental. Like you could be top of the world class fitness, and if you can't get your head to push yourself to it, it's not gonna happen.
Now, based on what you just said, does being first, second, or in the pack affect any of that? Meaning, when you're up front and there's no one in front of you and you're just, murdering that lane, horrible phrasing, but when you're just going after that lane, is there nothing in your mind? When you're second, is there nothing but that other person? I got to get around them. When you're in the pack, are you more prone to all these people? Oh my gosh, I'm doing poorly. I got to get out of this.
I think you have to learn to condition yourself to whatever position you're in, to rewire it to think that you're in the best position you possibly can be. So, for example, when I'm
Okay.
in first, my
That's
pride is
awesome.
never gonna let someone pass me. Like if I'm in first, I honestly it was probably like my best place to be in because you have this fear of like someone's literally chasing you down. Like picture like an animal hunting you. They can see you and you can't see how far away they're from you, and you can't turn
But
around.
you
That
can hear them behind you,
depends how
and
far
that's
they are.
kicking the. Oh, yeah. All right.
Depends how far they are. Sometimes you can't, and then if they start kicking, you can't tell when they start kicking, but they can see when you start kicking. And it's a rule in running: you cannot turn around. Someone who turns around to see how far the next person is behind them, wuss. That's just like the most cowardly thing you can do in running. So that's one. Position number two, you have to be like, all right, I'm so confident, I'm just gonna ride them and they're gonna lead me to it. They're gonna be doing all the work, and whenever I feel confident enough, I'm gonna go. But you have to have that
Slingshot right
confidence.
around them. Yeah.
And then I feel like if I'm anywhere in the pack, my high school coach once told me to play like, especially in cross country, like kill shot games, so like video games. Whenever you pass
Yes.
someone, it's a kill shot. Like I'm winning a kill shot.
Done.
So then I would kind of just play a game in my head. It'd be like, all right, next, 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 and it got you eventually to the front.
It's scary because a lot of the things that I second guess myself saying, like murdering that lane, kind of feeling a kinship with you right here with that kill shot thing. So, oh, that's awesome. All right, now this is what an important question. Race days, training days.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about mental state. What's the difference? And it's really easy to say fight like you train. It's really easy to say train like you race. But there is a difference. There is a difference. Do you and does making it inter-team more competitive help with that, or is it just a totally different feeling?
Personally, I think that no, in our team, it helps a lot more when you guys aren't competitive against each other. When you guys
Okay.
are on the same page, because it means that I'm at the same fitness level as you. So if you're for some reason 50 meters in front of me, I know that I should be up there. Um, I feel like that's almost more encouraging, and you because you train with them, you know that you're hurting just as much as the next person, and that they are you know them as humans, not just as a competitor. So you know that they have thoughts behind what they're doing. Um, and then difference between race day and practice, everybody will always tell you, and coaches will tell you like, oh, it's just another race, or it's just think of it like another workout. But it's bull. I don't agree. I think there definitely is a difference. I think the main difference is there's definitely similarities. One, you have to train like you want to race. So if at practice you are supposed to hit a split 70 for a 400, but you start to hurt, so by rep 12 of the 400s you start to be like, oh, whatever, like I can go run like 71 72s, like it'll be fine, and you start to give up. You're conditioning yourself for when race day comes and it hurts to let go of the gas. So you shouldn't like that. It's more like mental training than physical. You're training your brain to be able to react in race day. So if you're being passed, to react and go with the person, because on race day there is not that much time to think. Like there's no time for analysis. Like your body just goes. It's instinct. So you have to train that instinct. Um, but there that's mainly the difference. And of course, like the main difference is competition. Like I said, like I feel like you shouldn't necessarily feel like this rivalry within teammates at practice. I think it should definitely be more of like a camaraderie thing. But the adrenaline that you get on race day will never be like any kind of adrenaline that you get at practice. Because if at practice, like if I get hurt or if it's just not my day, like it's not the worst case if I can't finish a workout. It is the worst case if I can't do it at a race. Like the stakes are never the same. So I think
So
adrenaline.
the clock basically takes on a totally different meaning on race day versus trying to get a PR versus trying to hit a time in practice. That clock on race day up on that board is it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, and really,
And
it's
your
like
competitor, yeah.
it's the end time. Like at least I know a lot of runners usually like look at it at every split or like every lap or every mile marker. But I honestly always like struggled with that so much. Like it wasn't on purpose. I just didn't see it. Like, and that was good. Like it was good that I was focused enough that I wouldn't like look to the side. And I had no idea what the time meant. And throughout my entire running career, I made it a point to never know what splits meant. Like most girls will know, like, okay, if you run like an, I still don't even know that if you run like an 80, it means like you're running like a 5:25 mile. I never wanted to know that. Like if coach was like, go run a 70, I'd be like, all right, I'm doing that. I have no concept what that actually is. And
That's
I think it made it
awesome.
so much better because when I found out that like the splits coach was telling me to do for a race and what it translated for a mile, I was like, oh my god, the mile time sounds so much harder than you just telling me to run an 80.
So that's funny because I do for my workout, for my counts, I do a Marine Corps count, which is 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 4 5 5, or like 1 1 2 1 1 1 2 2, and people were always asking me why do you do that? Why do you do? What's the reason behind that? It feels like it's just confusing, and I'm like, no, you knucklehead. I only have to do 5 push-ups in my perception when I'm actually doing 10 push-ups. Doing 10 push-ups feels harder. Doing 20 push-ups feels even harder than that. But if I'm doing 1 1 2 2, 5 equals 10. 10 equals 20. And they were like, oh my gosh, that's so smart. I'm going to start doing that now.
Yep, you definitely have to trick yourself. I'm telling you, it's all a mental game. Like you have to learn how to brainwash yourself, how to like manipulate yourself. Like it is insane the lengths that my brain can go to. Like if I want to convince myself that something didn't happen, I can I can erase it from my memory.
Oh my gosh, man, that is so awesome. It is the rule. All right, last question. And it's actually a simple one. What's your training regimen, your diet, and your rest and recovery?
My training looked like I was running about 50 to 60 miles a week. Honestly, every season that I was at Florida, it changed. I
Mm-hmm.
think Coach Zelensky was I was his first recruiting class. So he had coached
Wow.
before, but not at Florida.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He had coached before, but not at Florida. And he tried to do different things. And I think the one that I saw worked best, at least personally, was to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday workouts, but Friday workouts were like something lighter, like more of like
Mm-hmm.
just like turnover or something like that, like not the most taxing things, just like pace work. Um
Okay. Yeah.
and then Saturday long run.
Slower tempo, slower percentage of heart rate, and all that stuff.
Yeah, maybe like race pace, but like race pace like in a shorter distance, like 400s or 200s, and that makes it like so much more doable. And then do long run Sunday, and then I mean long run Saturday, and usually my Sundays were like rest and recovery. Sometimes he'd have us do like shakeouts. Sometimes I would just like to do shakeouts, like if it was like nice weather or like someone
Well,
invited me.
describe
But
what a shakeout is. Describe what a
a
shakeout is
shakeout
for
run would
people.
just be like a 15-minute run, a 20-minute run, just to get your legs moving so you kind of like shake out any bad. And honestly, it's just like
Cramps and all that
I
stuff.
just I just took it as like an enjoyable run, like a run where I don't have a purpose. Like I'm just like enjoying. So I like go run with like a non-runner friend, or go run just sometimes I'd like just trick myself and find like a 400-meter loop around the neighborhood and just do it and see how many times I could do it in 25 minutes, like stuff like that. Um, Diet. Oh, and so a lot of days we
Well,
would
hold on.
double.
Back up a little bit.
Hmm.
What outside of running and outside of mileage, are you swimming? Are you doing any resistance work for your legs? Some of this work is sprinting, so are you doing any arm and shoulder work in
Yeah,
order
so
to
there'd
really
be
put
days
some
where
strength into those drives?
yeah, there would be days where we'd end up working out like 3 times a day because we'd have workout or run in the morning, and then we have weights like at 2 p.m., and then we had to do another shakeout at night. So yeah, we do weights. We do a lot of Olympic lifts. UF does a lot of Olympic lifts, mostly with their Olympic sports. So like cleans, split squats, snatches, stuff like that. Um, and yeah, I personally I didn't really like doubling and running as much, just
Mm-hmm.
because running can get old. Like imagine running 3 times a day. So I had to find myself. You have to find a way to make things enjoyable. So I would really like to go for swims. I liked swimming a lot, so I would just go for 30-minute swims. Or sometimes if I had to replace something, I do like an hour swim or something like that. Or some days you want to just lazy it, and I would just play Netflix and get on the bike at the gym. You know.
That's perfect. All right, now nutrition.
I Actually, I feel like throughout the years in college, I saw a lot of eating disorders, and I'm so thankful that I never ever went anywhere near that. But I can definitely see how it's so easy to end up in that. You know, you see pro runners and everybody's very lean, and that's not the reality. Like, yes, they're lean, but they're lean because they ran for 20 plus years, and eventually your body does that, you know? But you have to be able to put everything back in, then you're exerting. Because if not, you're gonna crash and burn. And it might work, and it has worked for a lot of runners that under eat and under fuel for 6 months, and for those 6 months they'll get crazy times. But the damage that you're doing to your body long term is not worth it. Like you're bound to have stress fractures, stress reactions, injured joints. I never really understood that, but I saw it a lot with teammates and a lot of it, like just in the running world in general. I always try to see food as like something so enjoyable. I feel like I'm very cultured, and I love trying things. Like everybody says, I have a super weird taste palette, taste buds, but I kind of had like the idea of it. Like I had super informed that I had to eat a certain portion of carbs, a certain portion of protein, a certain portion of veggies. But it was more like what it could do for me than counting or measuring any of the above. Like
And your
I
body will tell you
what you need.
when, yeah, it's weird where I'm like, I need meatballs right now.
Yeah, and
I
it,
need
it
them
always has a
right
meaning
now.
behind it. Like if you're craving red meat, you might be like low in iron. If you're craving like salami or prosciutto, like you might be low in sodium. You know,
Hmm.
your body will ask you for the things that it needs. I believe a lot in like holistic stuff. I supplements. I took iron most of the time because just you have to have a really really high count as a distance runner, and if not, you definitely see how your performance gets.
That's one of the things we learned in our nutrition is that female athletes definitely are at risk of iron deficiency. So it's actually really freaking awesome that hearing you recognize that, and I hope that that's something that's sort of socially public throughout the program.
Yeah, it's definitely something that gets not pushed on us, but definitely encouraged. There were times where like my iron count was lower, and you can feel it in workouts immediately. Like I didn't have to get my blood work done to know that I was low on it. Like you'd be doing a workout and you'd feel fine, and then at rep 3 or 4 out of 10, when you know that you should feel fine, all of a sudden like you physically can't move any faster. Like you just feel exhausted and fatigued, and it's because you don't have enough iron to transport oxygen fast enough throughout your body. You know. Um,
I am so impressed by you right now. That is so awesome. You're
why?
like totally you understand the mechanisms and all of that. I'm like in a program where we learn the mechanisms, and you're just spouting them out as common knowledge, and I'm so impressed.
I
That's
think
really
that
good.
honestly that's probably something fairly common within runners. Like you spend so much time, your entire sport is just your body. You spend so much
Hmm.
time learning and listening to it. Like whenever I go to a doctor, I'm sick. Like I'm like, listen to me. Like no one is more in tune with my body than I am. I've spent so many hours with it in like the most brutal of conditions. Like I know what it's asking me to do, and same thing whenever like something hurts or something gets injured. Like I ask a lot of questions. I like to be informed as to like why and how, what I can do to make it better. So whenever an athletic trainer was like working on me, like I'd be like, okay, explain it to me, and why are you doing this and why are you doing that.
That's good. That's excellent. I need to see more people doing that just like you. That's really great. Finally, recovery. When do you go to bed? How long do you sleep for? And what do you do to rest your muscles, your bones, your tendons, your ligaments, and your
um
brain?
Ice baths were really popular. It's like it was also like a social time. A lot of us would just get in after practice, and I like them. It's also like a mental exercise, because it hurts.
Oh my
But
gosh.
then whenever it got cold outside, f that, I was not getting anything. I was getting in recovery boots. I was not gonna be touching, because it was also the best feeling to like go in the ice tub and then go in the hot track and just lay in the sun for a while and have it warm you up. Um, if anyone's watching this and it's a runner or you want to run, sleep. Please sleep. Like you have no idea the difference that it makes, and it took me way longer than I wanted to admit to discover how much sleep mattered. Like I suck. Like I usually go to bed pretty late, and your body can't handle it when you're waking up at 5:30 a.m. to go run every
No.
single day, and then you have classes, you don't have time to nap. um so you end up falling asleep earlier. But when I actually like did the experiment and went to sleep and got like my full 8 hours of recovery, the energy that you have is so different. Like I cannot explain. Like you need to experience it. It 100% is what resets everything in your body.
Totally. Um, all right. That's pretty much it, Maria. This has been awesome. I really appreciate this. And thank you for going to all the trouble to get all of your devices to work so that you could
Thank you
be
for
here.
your patience so much. Thank you for your patience.
Not a problem at all. All right, everyone. This episode, as usual, was brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. You can get all your gear by going to www.seaandlandfitness.com. And thank you so much, and we'll see you guys soon.